What's up, IFLC? This is Judah Rad. I'm sitting here with Robo.
What's up, guys?
And we have a very special episode. So we listened to your emails and your requests, and we managed to somehow swing it. We got Rhiannon back on the show. Say hi, Rhiannon.
Hi everyone. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we're gonna have a really good episode because we're here to talk about Volume 2 of the Black Monday Murders by Jonathan Hickman.
Did you regret not reading it last time?
I did. I felt completely left out, but this is redemption round for me because I've read the first volume and the second volume, and now I'm just as up to date on this as these two people. So
it's awesome.
What did you think, Judah?
Well, so I hate to backtrack, but because I didn't read it last time, I'm gonna have to just spend a little bit of time talking about the first volume. I'm just gonna talk about the whole thing because now in my head canon, I can't even separate what happened in what volume.
No, you're not allowed to. You have to start with volume 2. Sorry.
Holy shit. This really is an exceptional series. It's a deep, cynical critique of our financial system, and I think it really just what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't pull any punches when it comes to condemning greed and money itself. Like, it doesn't dance around it. It's not condemning certain aspects of trade or this and that and the other thing. It is the market is evil, money is evil. And I think it's really bold, and it was really badass. And whether you agree with those things or not, I think this is a very poignant horror tale with that as a backdrop. It's very unique. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Hey, Reed, do us a favor. Before we kick off with Volume 2, you want to give us like a quick rundown of Volume 1 real quick?
I'd love to. So I think last time we talked about, firstly, how hard it is to condense into a little bio because of how Hickman writes. But if you want to boil it down into a quick 30-second summary, it's basically about the people that control, the 1% that control half the world's wealth. And you figure out that they've made a blood pact with a god in exchange for power and wealth. There's a second narrative that follows a New York detective called Theo, and he gets pulled in because there's a murder that happens in 2016. So there's a whole bunch of different timelines raveling together. You've got the 20s, the 80s, and 2016, all sort of told non-linearly, that's a word, and lots of information is revealed towards the end of each narrative. So if you push through, if it's not making sense, I promise you it will all make sense at the end. And the second volume reveals a whole lot more, so I'm really excited to talk about that today.
Yeah,
for sure.
Volume 2 really just kind of like goes out the gate. Like you said earlier, the Volume 1 was kind of like hard to
it was dense.
Yeah. And I like I said, in the last episode, but I really was having trouble following it, probably because I also do that thing where like I try to read with TV on, and maybe I should stop that. But I really didn't understand what was going on. Is this a vampire book? Do these guys have powers? And like I don't know what was happening.
I got a bit of flack from the last episode, actually. Someone that had read it, a mate of mine that listened to the episode, he said, I don't think they're vampires. Why did you say vampires? And to be fair, they never used the term vampires throughout the plot. I just couldn't think of
it's the teeth.
Closer. Yeah.
It's Abby's teeth during that scene where she's providing cunnilingus to the main character, Gregoria.
Yeah.
So I guess there's that one panel where you see that she has like some fangs, and I feel like that colored all of our perception that they were vampires.
Well, here's the thing, and I don't want to be passive aggressive or anything, but we have people who have powers and have fangs and gain power by drinking other people's blood.
And have eternal life and that kind of stuff.
Right, and since they're not named, I don't think vampires is too big of a leap. But you're right. Right, whoever made that comment, that's right. It's not confirmed.
What if the blood isn't blood in a conventional sense, but it's the lifeblood of society that they're sucking and surviving off of?
So if we want to get into symbolism, absolutely, I'll buy that. But no, this dude literally drinks their blood, and that's how he's gained their power. And then she what was it? What was the girl's name who plans all that stuff? And what was it Gregoria? Who actually drinks the blood at the end of the dude who has his head? Oh, she eats the heart.
The heart, yeah.
Like now she has the power. She's regained all that power back. So
I'm not sure if we talked about the ending of Volume 1 last time, but she basically at her brother's funeral declares war on everybody and like sets this church ablaze. Sorry, spoilers bound. But it really didn't go in the direction I anticipated in Volume 2. I kind of thought it was going to turn into this massive war between all the different, because in that funeral where Daniel's body is, they have all those different schools come to visit and pay their respects. Yeah, so I kind of thought it was going to turn into this massive turf war. It took another turn, which I'm not mad about, but it just wasn't the direction I anticipated from the ending of Volume 1. What did you guys think?
I like the turn that it took. I also kind of anticipated like this turf war with all these factions, and we were going to get to see like almost like a widescreen view of the whole picture. And I thought we were gonna learn a little bit more about the really, really pale characters, because there's more than one of them. Abby's the one we knew the most about, and that's not that much.
I think they gave us a little bit. I hate to dwell, but I just want to go back to this vampire thing. In the shooting range, she tells Gregoria, right? She goes, your bullets aren't even silver. They won't penetrate the skin. So they're fucking vampires. All right. So you know, as you know what I'm saying. So we got silver, we got blood, we got a lot of things. We got fangs. We got a lot of sexual innuendos. It's very vampire-esque without the vampire there.
Using the word.
Also, the pale people. So you see quite a few of them. They're the vampire's familiars. So the two that are standing in front of Mammon when then Theo and the professor go in front of them, and then you have, she literally names Abby. I choose my familiar. So these are some like powerful kind of helpers that Mammon has given to his disciples, that as he calls them. Even the word disciple, right? Disciple, covenant.
Maybe they're the eyes too, like.
Well, he says that there are disciples who've chosen. And then they're even more powerful. Yeah, sure. When he talks about there are some who have given themselves to become my eyes, and he goes, that's not mandatory. Yeah, so maybe those are the pale people, because they're even more powerful. They get like all the power, at the expense of kind of like their selves. You know, they give all of themselves to Mammon. The other people get to keep their personality. He can't see them, but he knows what they're doing based off their effects. So yeah.
Spoilers for anyone that hasn't read it. You get to meet Mammon in this one.
And they're vampires.
He was pretty exciting. I loved his character design, and I really enjoyed. So when you meet him, Theo and Professor Gaddis, who we didn't talk about in the last episode, and that was entirely my fault. Essentially, what happens is Daniel's murder is set up like a clock. His body is like the centerpiece of a clock, and Theo is able to decipher that and say like what time of day should be in that apartment. He finds some code on the wall, then he takes that code to Professor Gaddis, who's a professor of economics, to get a translation. And the professor is sort of tuned into this underworld that Theo is starting to unravel, and they both end up driving to DC and going to the federal building to meet Mammon, which Theo just sort of has thrust on him. He's really in the deep end, has no idea what's going on. And they end up going down this demonic set of stairs that you've seen in some of the other pages, into this room, and they have to pay a toll. There's 2 gold coins that they give this weird lumbering giant with a blindfold on that just noms the coins. And says like the price is paid, you can come into this back room, and they go into this back room, and it's just piles of bones. 2 of those white familiars that Robo was talking about. Mammon Dadson are looking very CEO in his suit, at a very heightened desk, and then either side he's got these two monstrous beings. I don't even know how to how would you describe the two on either side of him?
Trolls. They're just like trolls or goblins or something.
Yeah, like how when you see scenes of hell and there's these random demons, it's like some demon cohorts.
A lot of this stuff is just window dressing. Like we're not supposed to really ever figure out too much about it. We just know this is a whole other world with this god or devil.
Yeah. And you do get a lot of information. Like, I wanted to delve more into what Robo was talking about, because they get a limited time frame with this god, and because they paid this toll, they can ask him some questions and get some truth back. So you start to finally figure out what the hell is going on. And the professor ends up getting so involved that he basically says, I want more, and pays with his life to get the answers to 2 more questions.
But then what does he want to know? He just wants to know that one thing. Does not seem like a good trade. Your life for that. What do you think?
I disagree, because that was a key piece of the puzzle. When he said, so he asks Mammon which financial crashes he's been responsible for, because throughout the conversation they realize Mammon is an old god that has stuck around while other gods haven't, because other gods have relied on people's faith and offerings, and they're fickle when it comes to humanity. What humanity is always behaving like is greedy.
Right.
And he's all consuming. So that is why he stuck around for so long. That is why he has these schools that sort of do his bidding, and he's got that Black Pope type thing going on as well that also do his bidding. Oh, an interesting concept actually, before I keep going. What did you think about the idea of global peace bringing unbalance to the schools and vice versa?
Yeah. I think it was a very on point commentary, because what who benefits when we go to war? The military industrial complex, and ultimately the financial industry.
Yeah, but here's the thing that I was, we were talking, and we were kind of setting up before the recording, and we were kind of talking about how this is about greed. I don't disagree, right? So this is about greed. Mammon is this god of greed,
the avatar of greed. Yeah.
But I think in the same way that he's about greed is how we can look at Thanos, for example. How Thanos is evil, and the edgelords that talk about the memeing of it, Thanos was right. About balance. There's been a lot of discussion about no, he could have doubled resources. He could have done a lot of things. However, if you really want to look at the MCU version of Thanos, a lot of the times people just talk about balance. I think Mammon is, at least in part, about balance. And when you look at the Iraq War, and we look at what happened with under George W. Bush, and you look at what happened to the economy, there were a lot of people who got really, really rich off of the military-industrial complex, and from all over the world, not just the United States. But eventually, what happened is it was too much, and then we actually went into a little bit of a recession, and we had to come out of that. And so when we look at Mammon, he goes, I get hungry. And that's when that crashes happen. That's when too much. But if you notice, Mammon, while based off of how he's depicted, how he's illustrated, our Judeo-Christian kind of like perspective can look into, this is a Satan or an evil person of sorts. But really, it's just is a balance, right? Where he doesn't keep people. He's not the god of utter poverty, because then he can't feed, right? You got to let them prosper as well. And so you come out of the recession, or you come out of the Great Depression of all these various crashes, and then he allows it to come back up, and then he'll get hungry and he crashes. And
well, what does he eat? What does he consume? And what I think it makes it kind of clear is, just like any other god, sacrifice. He's nourished by sacrifice. Well, I don't know, what do you
sort of get an example of that with the professor, I think, when he basically says, I'll pay to get 2 more questions, and then essentially eat him in front of Theo, which is really gory and dramatic and awesome.
Yeah.
But the quote that I took from Mammon that I really enjoyed is he basically says, "Man is my seed, and they are the true reflection of my nature. So they worship themselves, and in doing so, me, eternal consumers."
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, what exactly tying into what Judah, you were saying before about it being about the nature of greed, the nature of humanity,
That's
the human condition. But what I took away from it too is, and maybe this is another form of greed, Theo at the end of this volume basically comes to Rhea and says, "I want in," because he's lost this friend. He solved the case that he wanted to solve, but he didn't get closure because of some other stuff that happens that we'll probably talk about in a sec. And he basically sells his soul almost at the end and says, "I want in," to Rhea so that he can start to learn. And that's a greed for knowledge, in a sense.
Yes, I can see that. So you don't think that you don't think that he just kind of was like, well, being really fucking rich would be great.
Yeah.
Fuck
I
all
think
my.
he's just eternally curious. Yeah, I think he's super curious, and as he's starting to get further and further into the abyss, he just needs to know more and more. Otherwise, I mean, think about how you would be in that same situation. If you were a detective that had this ability that you were able to tell when people were lying, maybe you don't fully understand it yet, but then you uncover this entire underworld that rules the world around you. Do you think you could just walk away from that, or would you have to know more?
I think I would have to know more. I mean, I know I have to know more because I'm flipping through these pages at
Me too.
breakneck speed, trying to find out what happens. So.
I know that I absolutely would be disappointed if, given the story arc across 2 volumes of this detective, if Volume 3, when it comes out, if Volume 3 ends up being the detective has fallen in and now wants in, if it wouldn't fit because
you don't want him to be a bad guy.
Well, it's not even just that. It's literally the arc that he has taken thus far as somebody who is willing to do what it takes to be to defeat evil, right? That's why he was off duty before. He probably couldn't prove it, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna kill this guy. And now we hear 2 volumes later where he tells her, "Hey, I can't prove it, and I never will, but I know who killed him." And so the next step for him is to go, "I want in." This is the only way. I hope, Godspeed, Tom Coker's health. But when he comes back and we get this, and we get the rest of the story, I really believe that the detective wants in so that he can get it from the inside.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's doing it as an infiltration, only because we get a scene early on in Volume 2 where Theo and Gaddis are sitting down in a diner and they're talking about, so Theo wants to know how it all works, and the professor essentially asks if he's a believer, and they have this really interesting discussion about Christianity, because Theo is the type of guy, he will go to church every Sunday, he won't walk under ladders, he's superstitious, he sort of covers all his bases. But he does reveal in that conversation that he's essentially lost faith in God because of what he's seen as a detective, which is very similar to that other character, Thomas Dane, that head of security that we see throughout the story as well. He gets disenfranchised as well as he goes because they see how these vampires, for lack of a better term, behave, and it just sort of destroys their faith in goodness of humanity.
They peek behind the curtain. They like this guy, the security guy. I'm glad you brought him up. He initially wanted to serve his country, and then he just kind of wanted to serve like the world, you know. And then he realized that it was all a bunch of bullshit. He was just another pawn on the chessboard. So it's kind of just like this vibe of disillusionment altogether.
He has a really interesting arc though, doesn't he? Because he actually, you find out throughout the story that Daniel and him, so Daniel hired him from CIA with a recommendation to be head of security at Cana where he worked, so that he could sort of replace him, and then when he went into the ascendant seat, he'd have someone that was properly trained that he could trust. And Dane and him have conversations that you find out, I think, throughout Daniel's diary entries in the book, where they feel the same way about what they're doing is evil, and they set up you figure out that they did Y2K, and they got a bunch of money from Y2K and started giving that to non-for-profits and charities and all that kind of stuff. Like that, I think it's like they ended up raising. What did you think about that?
Hey,
repeat that last part.
You repeat that last part.
Kind of cut out.
It cut out. Yeah. Sorry, I was just saying. So they were the ones responsible for Y2K. They spread that misinformation, and they raised about $13 billion that they ended up giving to various charities. So Dane and Daniel did that together.
Yeah.
Did that come through okay?
Yeah, it did, and it probably it definitely explains why he's probably not with us anymore. You know, so he's probably not as. When you look at the way Victor was acting, when you look at the way some of these members were acting, it's like it's all in, right? There's never enough information. There's never enough money. You go to you want it all, and that's the way you win. So if Daniel is sitting there trying to come to terms or try to keep connection with his humanity or whatnot, it's not an accident that he's dead now because of it. It's that whole weakness thing.
Can we talk about the battle at the end?
Oh, that was so epic.
It finally became a comic book. I was reading a thriller movie, and then it became a comic book right then. And still just as awesome.
Yeah, so you get this crazy battle between. So there's lots of tension between Victor Oresco and Rhea Rothschild because she knows for a fact that he has murdered her brother, absorbed his power by way of drinking his blood, and he's just sitting there smiling at her, getting away with it. Like we open on a board meeting where they're just across the table from each other, and the tension's high, and shit's going to go down, but it all culminates in this battle at the end
where they go Super Saiyan.
They go Super Saiyan, yeah, and Rhea puts forward Abby, her familiar, as her second. When you see that battle, you don't have this information, but in the next couple of pages, they give you that scales information about how those trials work.
The greater scales, the lesser scales, yep.
That's it. That's the one. And in the lesser scales one, they actually say if you choose a familiar or a second, they perform at half power. And Abby still beat Victor.
Yep.
So Rhea and Abby are far stronger than what they should be, and we don't know why yet.
Right.
And so my guess why the familiar one as easily as she did is I think it might have to do with the fact that the eyes. Remember, some of the disciples have allowed to become eyes, and then they get the full power.
And that's what the familiars are.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm making the connection correctly, but that's what I took from it. But you're right. I remember them referencing when who was the other one?
Beatrix?
Yeah, when Beatrix was talking to somebody else saying that should have put her down. She should not have got up and walked away from that, but she did. Yeah, there's something about the amount of power and that's going into this, and it's very, very interesting.
Do you think we're going to get some in Volume 3, which I just found out is happening, by the way, and I'm very excited because I was a little sad that I was a little sad because I was like, it's over? That's it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
they had the artist had a health hiatus, and I think Volume 9 was supposed to come out. It was supposed to ship on April 24th this year. I don't know when it's actually happening, but it is supposed to. There's cover art out for it.
Is this
hopefully?
Is this being released by the issue, or is it just as volumes?
No, by the issue.
I think you do. I think you can get issues. Yeah, I think you can get issues.
It's 9 and 10 that was ordered.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, because they took basically issue 9, which is what. So we've read up to issue 8 in those 2 volumes. Issue 9 was supposed to ship on the 24th of April this year, and they ended up delaying it because of the artist stuff.
Oh, okay, now I get it. Yeah. Oh, okay. So I'm wondering if in future installments they're gonna kind of show a flashback to explain maybe Gregoria received some sort of power up or something.
Yeah, because they allude to that by a series of emails between Daniel and Win Ackerman, who's someone that we've had referenced but hasn't really come into the story until this volume. He comes in the epilogue.
Heavily redacted emails.
That's it. Heavily redacted. I actually checked those links that he sent too, because he basically forwards. So Win disappears, and Daniel's messaging him saying, "Win, where did you go? I need you for these board meetings."
Oh yeah.
And Win, do you remember that? Yeah. And Win's responding saying, "Your sister's called me over here to do some stuff, and it all goes to shit. We still don't know why." It's another one where they're saying. He literally says, "It's fucked, Daniel. It's all fucked. I'm not coming home." In 2014.
She ate him.
We don't know why. We've got some Guardian article links that say, like, confirm 6 dead before Bilderberg meetings begin, but we don't know what happened.
She ate him. I bet. That's my
maybe
guess.
She ate him.
Yeah, she did her, the blood took his power type stuff,
Or took his power or something.
In the epilogue, you see when, where is he? I think he's in, like, Amsterdam or somewhere weird. Argentina, sorry.
Yeah.
So when is, like, in the epilogue, you see, earlier on in the piece, Rhea and Dane have a really interesting conversation about Daniel, where Rhea calls, I don't know if you guys remember, Dane takes Victor Oresco out of the board meeting, and as he's taking Victor out of the board meeting, Victor whispers some demonic stuff in his ear and says, "When you get home, you're going to shoot yourself in the head."
Yeah. But it doesn't. Yeah.
But he doesn't.
Well, he almost does.
He almost does.
He almost does, yeah. Rhea snaps him out of it, calls him back in, has a really interesting conversation with him about Daniel, where she says, "What do you think about Daniel?" And he lies twice.
Yeah.
The first time he says...
Before he says, before he says, I want to have revenge on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she sends him off to... She's like, "You can help me avenge him. I'm going to send you to find Win Ackerman." And then in the epilogue, Daniel shows up where Win is, and says... So Win says to Daniel, "You're a long way from home, Thomas. Why are you here?" And Dane's just sitting there with a smile, and he says, "Rhea's finally summoned him home. I've got good news." And then it ends by Win saying, "It certainly took her long enough." That's the last panel we get.
Wow.
So
there's
still
definitely
alive
something
and out there.
there.
We
Yeah.
don't know why, what his role is.
The way
all these new characters.
And I have to apologize to you, Robo, and anyone listening. Is like my brain is just not high enough functioning to really like digest this the first time through. It's just the way the exposition is, and I like the way it is. I really like it, but it's like the sequencing and the punchiness of the story. It's like I feel like I have to read it a second time to really absorb all the things that actually happen. So many moving pieces.
I agree. It's not just you. I think most people would be the same.
Yeah.
Oh well, thank you. That's very nice. Very nice of you to say that. See?
Most people have low functioning brains.
It doesn't make sense. Even the first time you read it, you sort of have to... It's one of those stories, when you finished it, you sit there and go, huh, and then you think about it for 3 days, and then maybe you reread it again. It's one of those ones you mull over. Yeah,
definitely. And I felt like noticeably disturbed by it, and it's the cynicism. Like when it comes down to it, it's not really any one part of the story, although those that one part where they were talking about that mountain that was full of iron ore, where they literally just
real place, by the way.
wasted an entire people just for
and
this
then
iron
brought in
ore.
slaves after,
and brought in slaves, and they killed them too. It was like that's
Sarah Rico, I think it is.
I didn't have to do the research to know it was real, because I just knew it was real. It had the ring of truth. And what disturbed me is just the cynicism of like, this is what people are. Like, there's nothing we value more than wealth at a certain point.
Well, think about what Mammon said. Mammon didn't say, "Oh, I'm using my magic to turn people corrupt," or "I created these people."
He's playing off of already existing.
Yeah, he's like, they are me. Like they are made they are in the image of me, and so it's like, hey, I'm evil, but the reason why this works out is because so are you. So.
And he's saying like the other gods, they just failed. I mean, Jesus, I guess there wasn't enough faith and altruism to keep him alive. I guess with like Zeus and like whatever. I don't know what gods he was referring to, but he said there used to be other gods. He's the one that stuck around because that greed ain't going nowhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. It's funny. Going back to that Sarah Rico down in South America you referenced.
Yeah.
So they give you a fun fact in the story. They basically say every peso coin minted has the cost of 10 Indian lives who died in the depths of the mine. So it's 10
Wow.
human lives for a single silver coin. And then when the Spanish ran out of indigenous workers, they started importing African slaves, and they called them human mules.
Yeah.
And while this is being exposed to us, we see it's sort of, this story is overlaid over Thomas Dane when he's still in the CIA. He's in South America and he's ordering an assassination of who was it? Like the president, basically. I think at the time, President Santiago.
Oh, that's right.
You
Yep.
see that in a newspaper clipping. So it's that same thing we were talking about last time, where the wealth gives you political power, and that then in turn gives you more wealth. So it's this constant cycle of control. And like Robo said last time, those families that are in power always stay in power. It's always the same people, that same line, that are controlling the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is kind of depressing to read because it's very close to reality at times.
It really is.
Well, how relevant, right? I mean, like how extremely relevant of what we're talking about. You know, if you're following what's been going on,
It's like 3% of all or 3% of the population controlling. I don't even know
Oh,
what
I
percentage.
I can tell you. So in 2012, the top 0.6% of the world population, they control 39.3% of the world's wealth. The
Right.
next 4.4% have 32% of world wealth.
Jeez.
So yeah, it's basically the top 5% control.
and this
majority
is
of the money. Yeah.
this is the one of the main talking points in political movements around the globe. When you start looking at developed nations and what's going on in their elections, as Americans, I have to admit that I'm pretty U.S. centric in my news and consumption. But once I peek outside of my borders and I see what's going on in Canada, the recent elections, and what just happened recently in Australia, like the wealth inequality next to climate change and the environment in general, but wealth inequality is one of the main talking points. And here in the States, Bernie Sanders has been talking about that a lot, talking about this extremely small number, and this is just in our country alone. And when you expand it to the globe, it's even worse. But in our country alone, extremely small number of the population controlling an extremely large amount of the wealth, and it's just that way across the board. And I feel like
there is a really good comparison happening over here. I don't know if you guys get the same discussions happening over there, but basically how they're comparing the 1920s to the 2020s and how many similarities there are and how frightening it is. Like you've got the rise of Nazis again.
Wow.
Like you can look it up. I won't take everyone through it, but it is cyclical sometimes, our society, how we go through these set movements. If you've read Watchmen or Handmaid's Tale in the last couple of years, those were written in the 80s.
That's right.
And they're still so relevant today. We're getting TV shows for them today.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a good, timely read. I think Black Monday Murders for how the political discussion is going currently, and especially before you guys vote next year, right? Again, is that right?
That's right.
So we
That's
have
our big
election
one.
coming up. Yeah, next year.
Yeah. Might be good to read up before then.
Yeah, just see what's
I mean,
going on.
I'm sure I'll read a lot of comic books between now and then. So.
Yeah. It really
I think
does,
she means
like,
real news.
Oh, wait, that's a thing.
Either. Like that's the thing. I know I've said this to you before, Judah, off the podcast, but the reason that I enjoy comic books so much, and I'm sure a lot of people are the same, is you get introduced to this wealth of new ideas and concepts that you would not have had access to otherwise.
Say that again, one more time.
Sorry. The reason I enjoy comic books so much is because you get introduced to this wealth of ideas and concepts that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
And it's stuff.
Yeah.
It's stuff that comic books have this freedom of maneuver that movies, TV shows, even like novels, don't really seem to have. And I'm not sure why, but a comic book can go anywhere. There's no the left and right limits, the hasn't been written for comic books. It seems like this endless, bottomless pit where it can go anywhere, and that's really one of the reasons why I love it as well.
You know what I really hate though? What I really hate is this new thing where comic books are getting super political and trying to be, and just have all these ideas. Like when did comics start changing?
The moment they were conceived of.
Yeah, that's different. That's different.
Actually, I wanted to ask you, and I know this is you know that saying you should never bring up politics or religion at a dinner table, but I wanted to get your perspective on the comparison that they have. So Theo and the professor, when they're having that conversation in the diner, the professor has a really good point about Judas versus Peter. So he's saying to Theo, Peter betrays Jesus 3 times, but he is not punished the way Judas is punished because Judas was paid.
Right. I thought that was interesting, but I didn't really know what to make of it. I guess we could try to talk through it now.
Yeah, it's almost like, so like they're basically saying the generational blood offering is real wealth. That's the biblical exchange. It's blood for power, and blood is money. And that was what I was thinking about when you were talking about that blood being, what did you say? Sorry, Judah, it's representative of someone's force. Is that right?
Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, I guess when I was talking about it earlier, so we were talking about vampires. We keep bringing up vampires. I know your friend or whoever said that is probably going to be very irritated.
Your friend was
wrong. I apologize. I'm not trying to troll them with the vampire thing, but it just keeps coming up. But there's something very vampiric about this concept, even if there are no actual vampires involved, because of the drawing from the earth. Or what is it that they say? Wealth doesn't fall from the sky; it's drawn from the earth.
Right.
So there's like a sucking society's lifeblood concept. I guess that's what I was getting at.
So you were bringing up Judah, not Judah. What is it, Judas? Yeah, that's your name, Judah. Jewish names. So Judas was sitting there, and it's not an accident that we were talking about paying the silver, right? That this his death is depicted in one of the books on a plot of land, right? And so he buys the land, and then that's where he's killed. And so I thought that was extremely interesting. One thing let me ask an opinion. What do you guys think about the idea? We know that Mammon is mentioned in the New Testament. I'm pretty sure, but we don't have like an exact world. Like this is not the Marvel 616 or something. Like, do you think this is set in the Judeo-Christian mythology?
I think. What it really made me think of was American Gods by Neil Gaiman. It's a prose novel, and then I think there's also a show and a ongoing comic series.
Yeah.
But in that world, all the gods are real. All you have to do is, if someone believes in something, it is a entity and it exists somewhere. And
that makes sense.
Its strength depends on its level of belief, which also lends itself to this story because other gods like Jesus or Zeus or whatever, they might have lost believers and faithful followers over the years, but what doesn't lose followers is greed, which makes sense that this guy would be the most powerful of all gods,
Right.
Yeah.
That's an interesting perspective, Judah, because I was wondering if he was going to go. There's this Peter Binsfield guy that did a classification of demons in the 1500s, and they're known as the princes of hell. And they're sort of representative of the different levels of hell. So Mammon's greed, Lucifer's pride, Beelzebub is gluttony. I wasn't sure if he was referring to those 7 different levels, just because you see those stairs going down. The other gods that he's referring to, if that makes sense.
With his level being under the Federal Reserve, clearly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, definitely.
Man.
I'm sorry. I know that we're supposed to be wrapping it up, but I just have 2 other things I want to talk about and make it really fast.
Go.
Why the Federal Reserve? You know what I mean? Like that's like when I think of the Federal Reserve, I think of that's our money. That's the money that was taken away from the rich and given back to us, the public, the population.
Well, it gets into conspiracy theories, right? So, one, I'll give the conspiracy theory, and then I'll follow with what I think is going on when he goes under the Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve is not a government agency; it's actually a private agency, and there are some conspiracy theories, especially when it comes to the name Rothschild, And a lot of those conspiracy theories are anti-Semitic, and you can Google them and figure it out about who actually controls the money in the United States. And so, kind of like how we talked about in the last episode, where you have a lot of these anti-Semitic driven conspiracy theories in which the Jews control the world, right? Mm-hmm. In this story, it's not the Jews. In this story, it's Mammon and his vampires.
If we did, a lot of things would be different, by the way.
It would be different for you. You wouldn't be E5 in the United States Air Force.
There'd be a lot of changes that we'd like to make.
But here's what I'm thinking. Every time they start talking about a school, one of those like school of whatever you call them, economics or whatever, they show all these places around the world. I don't think that's an accident. I think that that much like what he's doing in the Dawn of X-Men and how he have all the portals, to Genosha, I think this particular story is happening in the United States. So a portal to Mammon is there. Go ahead.
Oh wow, I love that. I also have a theory that ties into yours. So when the professor's driving Theo to DC, Theo asks where they're going, and he says, to the very heart of it, we journey to the capital of all Western capital, the thin place where the other world can touch our own. When they're having that conversation, the Capitol building is on the horizon, and the sky is ominous above it. So I had this theory that maybe the other demons are under those other buildings that represent their sin.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, he says,
okay.
You think about what you just said right there. Where our world touches the other world, not hey, we're gonna go under this building and that's where his throne's at. It's clearly another world,
right.
And I would be willing to bet as this story continues,
it's hell.
Yeah, well, what we're gonna have is the Eastern institution. You go under whatever that their financial institution is, and
same damn place.
Yeah, there's a portal that goes to Mammon too. Yeah.
So what I was hoping for, and this is probably a pipe dream, and whatever Hickman does is probably going to be way better than this, but something that I was kind of in the back of my mind hoping for was that our protagonist, Theo, was going to access some type of ancient voodoo powers and do battle with the forces of evil. But I think this book is way too smart for that, so that's probably not going to happen. But that was kind of where I was hoping it would go.
I can envision, Theo and Rhea having some sort of, because Rhea is basically the big bad now.
You think they're going to smash?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something's gonna happen.
Anyway, I don't want to look up how long I have to wait for this next volume because it's probably a pretty long time, is my guess. But man, I just can't. I loved this story. This is a Rhiannon recommendation.
Thank you. I'm so happy you enjoyed it. It's nice to hear that someone liked it as much as I did.
Rhiannon. Sorry,
we'll get it.
It's a
recommendation. Okay, that works. Yeah. Anyway, we loved it, and we've been talking about it all day. I mean, it's been.
Thanks for reading it.
We start talking about it, and then I'm like, hey, can we save it for the show so we actually should talk about it on the show? But anyway, yeah, really good. Thanks for coming on. We love having you.
Thank you. I had so much fun again. Anytime.
So before we go, we'd just like to let everyone know, hey, do you like the show? Well, if you do, we have this thing. It's called what is it called?
You talking about the Patreon?
Oh, the Patreon, yeah. So, funny story, we're both so broke, I'm literally living almost on the street. I'm in the hallway. I'm halfway to the street at this point. So, yeah, I mean, I spent my last, few bucks on this microphone. If you guys could just throw a couple bucks our way on the Patreon, we'd really appreciate it, and we would say your name on the podcast.
But even if you don't, we also have plenty of other things out there. Check us out on Facebook, Discord, Twitter, Instagram. We just love this is our hobby, and we love interacting with you guys.
Oh yeah, way to make me sound like the greedy one.
and give us money. But seriously, guys, you guys have a great one.
We love you. Take it easy.